Comrades and Patriots, this is Miguna Miguna from Toronto, Canada. In the 1980s, when I was a teenager, dictator Daniel Arap Moi had engulfed Kenya into a frenzy of dictatorial songs, Nyayo Juu, Tawala Kenya Tawala, and such other songs. It was a very horrible period in our history. Whenever Moi woke up, he would create a boogeyman. One day, it was Ngoroko, an imaginary guerrilla group that was supposed to be trying to overthrow him. And suddenly, for months, there would be choirs, KANU sycophants, Moi sycophants, singing about Ngoroko, demonstrating against the so-called Ngoroko. Anyone, any critic of Moi would become a Ngoroko, would be isolated, would be thrown out of KANU. Then after that, he came up with Msaliti, the traitor. And soon, the powerful Attorney General, who had risen to be the Minister of Constitutional Affairs and MP for Kabete, became known as Ngoroko, Mr. Charles Mugane Njonjo, the man who had made Moi president. Now, a lot of Kenyans hated Njonjo, including me. We hated the fact that he was an ethnic chauvinist, a Kikuyu chauvinist. One Njonjo was a son of a home guard who had done everything to make sure that anyone who threatened Kenyatta's leadership was assassinated. He had planned to make Moi president because he thought that Moi would be a passing cloud and that he would then become president. But of course, soon there was the song of Msaliti. People were demonstrating, carrying twigs, condemning Msaliti, asking for his head. And of course, as usual, a commission of inquiry was set up. It soon found that Njonjo was guilty, and of course, Moi had his head. One of the people who testified against Njonjo was Raila Odinga. He was then serving jail term for treason at the Committee Maximum Prison. He said that Njonjo was one of the people that he worked with to try to overthrow Moi in 1982. Of course, now in hindsight, those are just games that were being played, and Raila wanted to save his neck. The same way he saved his neck when he testified against Ochuka and some of his colleagues that worked to overthrow the government in 1982. Now, don't get me wrong. I was against the Moi government, and I supported the coup as a teenager. In 1982, I was in secondary school. I was doing my Form 4 at Onjiko Secondary School. But I hated the Moi government the same way I had hated the Kenyatta government as a teenager, because they were only known for political assassinations, looting public resources, exploitation of the people, ethnic discrimination, suppression of dissent, and dictatorial tendencies. But the fact of the matter is that Raila was not a brave man, even then. He had betrayed his comrades in 1982. He betrayed his comrade Njonjo again. But the same frenzy of sycophancy, of demonizing dissent, of demonizing opponents, of trying to turn Kenya into one large choir singing about these mythical bridges to nowhere, is engulfing Kenya again. Detention without trial is again being inflicted on Kenyans, in spite of the fact that the Constitution is very clear. No one can be detained legally for more than 24 hours. Everyone should be taken to court. Even Raila Odinga was taken to court in 1982 after the attempted coup. Even the so-called coup makers in the Kenya Air Force, the disbanded Kenya Air Force, faced the military courts. Of course, we know the courts were not fair, they were not just, they were not run in a way that would engender any confidence. But there was a semblance of the rule of law, even though the Constitution actually legalized detention without trial. Right now, detention without trial is not legal. But yet, the tyrants, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and now their brother Raila Odinga, routinely disobey court orders, routinely try to dictate to the judiciary what to do. We must say a firm no to the attempt by these rapacious elites to turn the clock back to the 1980s and make Kenya a prison, one big prison of 45 million people. Patriots must stand up. Patriots must courageously face this elite. Patriots must face the few armed goons they call the police. And just like the Burkinabe, who overthrew Blair Compaore, and like the Zimbabweans, who came to the streets in their numbers and removed Robert Mugabe, and just like the Filipinos that removed Ferdinand Marcos, and the Ukrainians during the Orange Revolution, Kenyans must turn out in large numbers. It will take courage, it will take persistence, it will take mobilization and organization, it will take time. People will suffer, there will be a lot of inconvenience, but in the end, with persistence, we will win. Viva